From the bizarre one-episode wonder Turn On, yanked off air mid-broadcast for being too strange even for its time, to Australia's naughtiest home videos, famously pulled after just 34 minutes when network boss Kerry Packer demanded it be stopped, and the cult oddity Heat Vision and Jack, a Ben Stiller-directed pilot starring Jack Black and Owen Wilson that never made it past its pitch. TV history is littered with spectacular flops. These forgotten experiments remind us how quickly bold ideas can crash, leaving behind legendary stories of ambition, controversy, and unrealized potential. Forgotten failures of prime time. By 1969, viewers were used to traditional variety shows like The Ed Sullivan Show, but ABC wanted something edgy to attract younger audiences during the counterculture era. Producers George Slatter and Ed Friendly were the creators of the successful Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. They pitched a next-generation sketch comedy show. The show featured no sets, minimal actors, and instead relied on fast jump cuts, flashing backgrounds, and non-stop quick jokes. Their humor relied heavily on adult themes, innuendos, and absurdities. It was intended to be the fastest-paced show on TV, with sketches lasting only seconds. The show premiered on ABC at 8:30 p.m. Several affiliate stations were horrified by the content's sexual frankness and chaotic pacing. Some stations stopped airing it mid-episode, replacing it with emergency programming. Cleveland's WEWE pulled it before the first commercial break. The provocative jokes and sensory overload format provoked viewers who flooded stations with complaints. The newspaper described it as visual torture and an experiment gone wrong. ABC canceled Turn On the next morning before its second episode could air. Some stations announced they would refuse to broadcast it, even if ABC insisted. It remains one of the fastest cancellations in primetime network history. Overshadowed by the massive success of Laugh-In, the failure faded from public memory. Scholars later described it as a classic example of misreading audience tolerance and pushing boundaries without context. Only fragments and script materials remain today, with the full episode rarely seen. Canceled before the credits rolled. The Nine Network in Australia launched a raunchy adults-only special of the show Australia's Naughtiest Home Videos, 1992, based on the hugely popular Australia's Funniest Home Videos. But the show was too rude for TV, with clips due to which the family version couldn't air. It was hosted by popular comedian Doug Mulray, known for edgy humor. Despite its adult tone, it was scheduled for prime family viewing hour. The content included explicit jokes, voyeuristic clips, and sexual innuendo, which were far beyond what viewers expected from the wholesome original. Complaints began almost immediately after the episode started. Kerry Packer, the billionaire owner of the Nine Network, tuned in and was furious. He reportedly called the station control room and said, "Get that shit off the air." The crew cut the broadcast 33 minutes into the episode before it reached the ending, the host's sign-off, or the credits. With no time to prepare, the network abruptly switched to a repeat of Cheers. Viewers at home were confused as the show suddenly disappeared mid-scene. Nine Network then announced that the program would never air again. The show wasn't just pulled, it was banned permanently after less than one episode. Doug Mulray was effectively blacklisted from the network for years. Newspapers called it the shortest TV run in Australian history and canceled on orders from the top. For decades, the episode was considered lost, surviving only as myth. In 2008, 16 years later, Nine Network resurrected the footage as a novelty special introduced by Bert Newton. Series that barely made it to air. Dan Harmon and Rob Schrab created the show Heat Vision and Jack in 1999. It was produced by Ben Stiller, who also directed the show Pilot. It starred Jack Black as a former astronaut with superintelligence triggered by sunlight and Owen Wilson as the voice of Heart Vision, a talking motorcycle. Fox Corporation was interested in bizarre genre-bending content after successes like The X-Files. They commissioned the pilot but gave no guarantee of a series pickup. Executives within the network held differing opinions. Some appreciated the ambition, while others struggled to comprehend it. By early 1999, Fox executives were leaning heavily towards canceling the project before even airing the pilot. Internal notes suggested it was too weird, too niche, and too risky for mainstream prime time. Fox considered screening it only for advertisers and then quietly burying it. Ultimately, Fox chose not to air it on television at all. Instead, it was shown only once to industry insiders and affiliates at the 1999 upfronts. This event was just enough to qualify it as technically aired, but not broadcast to the public. The decision was made at the last minute, and the pilot almost didn't get to show anything. Fox canceled the series on the same day as the internal screening. No public broadcast was scheduled. The pilot was shelved indefinitely. Leaked online in the mid-2000s, the pilot gained cult legend status despite its limited release. Fans embraced its deliberately over-the-top style. It's now considered a precursor to Dan Harmon's later success, Community, Rick and Morty. But officially, it remains a series that barely made it to any form of air and never made it to primetime broadcast. TV shows that disappeared overnight. The show Emily's Reasons Why Not, 2006, was a romantic comedy starring Heather Graham as Emily Sanders, a young professional navigating modern dating. It was based on a popular novel. The show explored Emily's humorous reasons for avoiding certain relationships and situations. It was positioned as a primetime mid-season replacement on ABC. The show was heavily promoted before its premiere, with trailers emphasizing Heather Graham's star power and the show's witty tone. It was produced with moderate expectations, but ABC hoped it could fill the gap left by underperforming comedies. It aired on January 9, 2006, and received extremely poor ratings and approximately 3.6 million viewers, which was a catastrophic drop for primetime. Critics called it formulaic, unfunny, and tone-deaf, despite Graham's performance. ABC pulled the show after the first episode, canceling it immediately. Scheduled future episodes were never broadcast on television. The remaining episodes were later released online or in limited markets, but it effectively vanished from the primetime schedule. The show is often cited as an example of one-episode cancellations in U.S. network history. It serves as a cautionary tale, and even star power and source material popularity cannot save a show if they fail to connect with audiences immediately. The show is mostly forgotten today, but remains in discussions. The biggest TV misfires ever made. The show My Mother the Car was created as a high-concept family sitcom, blending fantasy with domestic comedy. Context: a man played by Jerry Van Dyke discovers that his deceased mother has been reincarnated as a sentient, talking antique car. The show was intended to be a humorous exploration of family relationships, morality, and everyday life, but through a whimsical, fantastical lens. NBC greenlit the series hoping it would stand out in a crowded sitcom market, which at the time included The Andy Griffith Show, The Dick Van Dyke Show, and Bewitched. Jerry Van Dyke was cast as the lead and known for his comedic timing and previous success in variety programming. The supporting cast included character actors meant to complement Van Dyke's humor. Production involved combining live-action sitcom formats with special effects for the car's talking sequences, which were relatively primitive by today's standards. Weekly episodes required careful coordination to make the car appear alive using voiceover, puppetry, and practical effects. The show premiered on NBC in September 1965, and it was part of the network's primetime comedy lineup. Initial audience curiosity was high due to the unusual premise, but reception quickly soured. Critics described the show as bizarre and implausible, noting that the premise was difficult for viewers to take seriously. Many found the humor weak and the concept ridiculous, which prevented audience engagement. Despite its unique idea, the show struggled in the Nielsen ratings, failing to compete with other popular sitcoms of the time. NBC continued the series for 30 episodes, hoping word of mouth might improve viewership. Ultimately, the network canceled the show after one season, marking it as a commercial and critical failure. Lists of worst TV shows of all time regularly cite My Mother the Car. Premieres that prompted instant regret. The show Viva Laughlin, 2007, was an American adaptation of the British musical drama series Blackpool. The show, which centered around a casino owner in Laughlin, Nevada, blended musical numbers with crime drama. Craig Ferguson starred in the show, which Darren Star produced. CBS aimed to create a bold, genre-bending series that stood out in the mid-season lineup. It premiered on October 18, 2007 in primetime. Audience reaction was overwhelmingly negative. Musical sequences were awkwardly integrated into dramatic scenes, and critics described the show as incoherent and tonally confused. Viewership numbers were extremely low, with a 3.0 Nielsen rating, far below CBS expectations. The combination of drama and musical comedy alienated viewers instead of attracting them. Critics and audiences considered the premiere a mismatched experiment, with musical interludes interrupting narrative flow. Social media and online forums criticized the show before the second episode even aired, creating a perception of instant failure. CBS canceled Viva Laughlin after only 2 episodes aired. The remaining episodes were never broadcast on network television. The network admitted the concept was too risky and did not resonate with viewers, marking the series as one of the fastest canceled in CBS history. Viva Laughlin is remembered as a prime example of a premiere that prompted instant regret. Doomed from the first episode. The show, The Lone Gunmen, 2001, was a spin-off of The X-Files, focusing on the trio of conspiracy theorists known as the Lone Gunmen. Context: the team investigates government secrets, corporate corruption, and conspiracies, blending suspense, humor, and technology-driven storylines. Fox aimed to capitalize on the popularity of The X-Files, focusing on the trio of conspiracy theorists known as the Lone Gunmen. The show promised a mix of investigative drama with quirky, offbeat humor, differentiating it from its darker parent series. It premiered on March 4, 2001. Initial ratings were low, struggling to draw viewers beyond X-File fans. Critics described the pilot as derivative and uneven, citing overly convoluted plots and characters that worked well in The X-Files but struggled in a standalone series. The first episode failed to engage a broad audience. Mainstream viewers unfamiliar with the characters from The X-Files found it confusing and inaccessible. Advertisers and affiliates were unimpressed, leaving little confidence in the show's longevity. Fox granted the series a brief run, but the show's doom was evident from the outset due to low interest and mixed reception. Only 13 episodes were produced, and the series was canceled after 1 season. Ratings never improved significantly, and attempts to expand the audience beyond hardcore X-File fans failed. The show was remembered as a failed spin-off, highlighting the risks of relying solely on a parent show's popularity. It was considered a cautionary example of a show doomed from the very first episode due to its poor accessibility, niche appeal, and weak audience engagement. Despite cancellations, the series has a small cult following among X-Files enthusiasts. Shows that never found their identity. Bryan Fuller, renowned for his quirky and genre-bending series, created Wonder Falls, 2004. Context: Jay Tyler, a recent college graduate working in a gift shop in Niagara Falls, begins receiving cryptic messages from inanimate objects, compelling her to help strangers. The show blended dramedy, magical realism, and dark humor, aiming to create a whimsical, thought-provoking series. Fox hoped the unique concept would attract audiences looking for innovative storytelling and offbeat characters. From the start, the series struggled with tone consistency, like some episodes leaned heavily on comedy while other episodes focused on drama or fantasy. Marketing was unclear, and trailers failed to communicate the show's unusual premise, leaving potential viewers confused. The show premiered on March 12, 2004 on Fox. Ratings were low, and critics noted that the show's ambiguous genre made it difficult to categorize. Many viewers were unsure whether it was a comedy, a drama, or a fantasy, which contributed to weak audience engagement. Fox pulled the series after only 4 episodes aired. Although 13 episodes were produced, the network aired the remaining episodes later on cable and DVD. The ability to clearly define the show's identity led to its early demise, despite critical acclaim from a small segment of viewers. Wonder Falls is remembered as a cult favorite and praised for its creativity, humor, and character work. It is frequently cited as an example of a show that never found its identity for a mainstream audience, highlighting the importance of clarity in tone and genre. The series demonstrates that critical acclaim alone cannot save a show if viewers cannot quickly understand what it is about. Television's most short-lived experiments. The sitcom that died before it even premiered properly was Co-Ed Fever, 1979. The show aired on February 4, 1979 on CBS. The premiere was intended to happen 1 week later, but never did. The premise of the show was a raucous college campus party sitcom, heavily inspired by the 1978 hit film National Lampoon's Animal House. The setting was Brewster House, a newly co-educational dorm at a fictional university, and the tone of the show was loud, mischievous, and chaotic. The cast were young actors playing rebellious students dealing with newfound freedom in a co-ed environment. CBS attempted to translate R-rated youth humor into PG television environment. The network hoped to attract younger viewers at a time when most sitcoms were centered on family or workplace comedy. It was part of what critics called the Animal House Clone Wars, where all three major networks rushed to produce similar dorm-themed shows simultaneously, which is a rare industry experiment in trend chasing. The special preview drew poor ratings, despite major network promotion. Critics overwhelmingly panned it as too crass for family viewers and too tame to appeal to the audience that loved Animal House. CBS affiliates reportedly complained about the tone and content even before the full launch. After airing only one episode, CBS canceled the series. The intended series premiere the following week was pulled from the schedule. 6 completed episodes were never aired in the United States. It became one of the few network shows in TV history to be canceled before its official launch date. The misunderstood shows that never took off. The cult classic show Freaks and Geeks, 1999 to 2000, was something audiences didn't understand until it was gone. The show premiered on September 25, 1999 on the NBC network. The show's intent was to portray high school life with honesty, awkwardness, and emotional realism, which was the opposite of glossy teen shows of the 1990s. The goal was to show the lives of outsiders, both nerds, geeks, and burnouts, freaks, without stereotypes or moral lessons. Teen shows in the late 90s were stylized, like Dawson's Creek and 90210. Viewers expecting high drama or idealized romance didn't know how to process the subtlety. Meanwhile, NBC wanted a youth hit, but didn't support its unusual tone. The promotion of the show was minimal and poorly targeted. The show was moved around the schedule, often preempted by sports. Character growth was gradual and understated, something critics loved but general audiences initially overlooked. Critically acclaimed from the start due to being praised for writing, acting, and honesty. But ratings were low due to bad scheduling, inconsistent airing, and little marketing. NBC canceled it after only 12 episodes were aired, and a few more later appeared post-cancellation on cable. Viewers were confused about the show's genre, wondering whether it was supposed to be a comedy, drama, or dramedy. It didn't fit the mold of any genre that networks understood in 1999. Its humor was too subtle, its emotions too raw, and its pacing too naturalistic for primetime expectations. Over time, the cast became huge stars. Critics now hail it as one of the greatest TV series ever made. College courses even analyze it as a masterpiece in character-driven storytelling. What failed in 1999 became a cult legend in the 2000s and 2010s. High hopes, low ratings. The show Cop Rock 1990 presented a real case of high hopes, low ratings in TV history. Industry context. Networks in the late 1980s feared losing young viewers to cable. ABC wanted a bold, attention-grabbing concept to generate buzz and reclaim audience share. The pitch was that the show was a hybrid series combining serious police drama with Broadway-style musical numbers. During arrests, interrogations, and courtroom scenes, characters would break into song. The network's expectations were extremely high, and ABC executives believed that Stephen Bochco's, the show's creator, reputation, plus the novelty of merging genres, could create a groundbreaking must-watch event. The budget was significantly higher than standard dramas due to musical staging, choreography, and live studio recordings. The premiere was Wednesday night at 10 p.m., which was a competitive and risky slot. The initial ratings were strong, and a curious viewership tuned in for the premiere. Immediate critical reaction was overwhelmingly negative. Reviewers called the tone bizarre, jarring, and confusing. Some critics praised the ambition, but noted that the musical numbers undercut the drama's emotional stakes. Many viewers were uncertain how seriously to take the show. Word of mouth spread quickly that the series felt unintentionally comedic. After only a few episodes, ratings dropped sharply. ABC affiliates reported viewer complaints that the show's tone shifted widely from serious crime scenes to upbeat songs. By mid-season, ratings had fallen below ABC's sustainable threshold. ABC officially canceled Cop Rock after 11 episodes, completing its single-season run. Cop Rock quickly became shorthand for high-concept but poorly received television in the industry. Worst shows ever made lists frequently featured Cop Rock, albeit with a disclaimer that it was an admirable risk. In later years, critics reevaluated the series as an unusually bold experiment during an era when networks rarely took such creative chances. The Great TV Vanishings. The show, You're in the Picture, 1961, that premiered, then disappeared within a week. Context. CBS wanted a fresh, interactive primetime game show to keep Gleason in the spotlight. The premise of the show was a celebrity panel game where guests stuck their heads through a painted cutout backdrop, then tried to guess the scene they were in. Network optimism was extremely high with Jackie Gleason, the show's host, attached. CBS assumed an effortless hit. The format was lightweight, visually awkward, and lacked strong comedic structure. Writers and producers struggled to find varied or engaging picture scenarios. Despite concerns raised internally, CBS moved ahead, banking on Gleason's star power. The premiere was on Friday night at 9:30 p.m. The audience's reaction was immediate confusion and disappointment. The critical response was brutal. Newspapers called it a total failure of concept and Jackie Gleason's career low point. Viewers complained it felt amateurish, pointless, and shockingly unfunny given Gleason's comedic reputation. Instead of airing episode 2, Gleason walked onto the stage alone and delivered a now-famous on-air apology. He openly acknowledged the premiere had been a disaster, calling the show the biggest flop of my career. He thanked viewers for the patience, and CBS immediately transformed the time slot into a temporary talk show called The Jackie Gleason Show. CBS officially canceled You're in the Picture after a single episode. All promotional materials were pulled, and the planned season order was quietly erased from the schedule. The show vanished so completely that viewers believed they had imagined it or misremembered the broadcast. Gleason's candid apology episode became more famous than the show itself. Critics praised his humility and showmanship, which softened the reputational damage. CBS pretended the series never existed in internal retrospectives. Flops with surprisingly huge budgets. The show Terra Nova, 2011, had a massive budget and huge expectations, but an abrupt end. The initial pitch of the show was a prestige sci-fi drama about humans escaping a dying future Earth by traveling back 85 million years into the dinosaur era. Fox needed a large-scale, blockbuster-style series to compete with premium cable's rising high-production dramas. Some of the early concerns were complex visual effects, exotic locations, a large cast, and dinosaur animation, which meant extremely high production costs even before filming began. The pilot budget was estimated between $14 and $20 million, one of the most expensive pilots in TV history at the time. The season budget was reportedly $4 million per episode, far above typical network drama costs. Some of the production challenges included filming in Queensland, Australia, which increased construction and logistics expenses. The 2-hour premiere aired after months of hype. The ratings were strong, but not exceptional, like around 9 million viewers, lower than Fox's hopes for a mega hit. Many audience members felt the show's tone, part sci-fi epic and part family drama, was uneven. After the season finale, Fox placed Terra Nova in evaluation limbo due to its costs. The network looked for ways to reduce the budget, but the logistics of overseas filming and heavy effects made cuts nearly impossible. The show cancellation announcement was March 2012 after just one season, 13 episodes. Other networks, including Netflix, briefly evaluated picking it up, but budget concerns halted negotiations. The show is often cited as one of the most expensive TV shows ever to fail after a single season. Series that couldn't keep viewers awake. Do No Harm, 2013, was a short-lived medical drama that featured a split personality as well as a split viewership. The premise of the show was a modern medical drama inspired by Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Dr. Jason Cole is a brilliant neurosurgeon by day, but transforms into an uncontrollable, dangerous alter ego, Ian Price, by night. The network's goal was to merge procedural hospital drama with psychological thriller elements, appealing to fans of both medical shows, Grey's Anatomy, and suspense series, Dexter. The initial buzz was that NBC heavily promoted it as a high-stakes, innovative thriller, banking on the concept of duality to hook viewers. The tone was uneven, like hospital scenes were overly formulaic, while thriller sequences were melodramatic. Early reviewers noted the character motivations were unclear, pacing was sluggish, and tension never built consistently. The series attempted to stretch a single plot point, the protagonist's dual personality, across episodes, which slowed narrative momentum. The premiere was on Thursday at 10 p.m., following The Office. The critical response was harsh. Critics called it dull, predictable, and plodding, noting that the dual personality gimmick wasn't compelling enough to carry slow-moving hospital storylines. Viewers' feedback on social media reflected confusion and boredom rather than engagement. After only 2 episodes, ratings had declined dramatically. NBC executives observed that even its strongest demographic, adults, were turning out. Competing shows on other networks, reality TV and procedural dramas, overshadowed Do No Harm, whose tone failed to resonate. NBC pulled the plug after only 2 episodes aired, leaving the rest unaired. Despite a full season of 13 episodes being produced, it never returned to primetime. The network quietly shelved the remaining episodes, which later surfaced only on streaming platforms in some regions. The TV projects nobody asked for. The show, Public Morals, 1996, had a network attempt that audiences didn't want. The premise of the show was a primetime drama focusing on an ensemble of Chicago police officers, combining gritty crime stories with soap opera-style interpersonal drama. ABC believed viewers were ready for another edgy, realistic cop drama in a different city with new characters. Filming took place on location in Chicago to provide authenticity. Scripts attempted to balance procedural crime with serialized interpersonal drama. Critics noted early scripts were uneven. While some episodes were compelling police stories, others dragged into soap opera cliches. Stephen Bochco's name gave ABC confidence, but there was little market research indicating audiences wanted another police drama at that moment. The premiere was on Saturday night at 9 p.m., which was a notoriously difficult slot for new shows. The critical response was mixed to negative. Some critics praised the gritty realism, but many called it formulaic and unnecessary, noting that the market was saturated with similar police procedurals. Ratings fell sharply after the premiere. ABC executives realized the audience simply did not need another cop drama, while the network had misjudged demand. Public and critical buzz was minimal, while the show failed to generate social discussion or water-cooler appeal. ABC, after only 1 episode aired, decided to pull the show. The network quietly replaced it with returns and never attempted to revive the series. The remaining episodes were a full season that had been produced, which was shelved indefinitely. The network quietly replaced it with reruns and never attempted to revive the series. When networks bet big and lost. The high-stakes network drama Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, 2006-7, failed to deliver. The premise of the show was a behind-the-scenes drama about a fictional sketch comedy show exploring writers, producers, and performers juggling creative and corporate pressures. NBC aimed to replicate the critical and audience success of Sorkin's The West Wing, hoping for prestige TV, strong ratings, and awards. The budget expectations were very high. Production involved expensive sets, recreating live studio tapings, high-profile cast salaries, and elaborate single-camera sequences. NBC heavily promoted Studio 60 as its flagship drama for the 2006-7 season. Producers aimed for cinematic quality, like extensive rehearsals, high production values, and on-location shoots. Network executives viewed the show as a combination of creative prestige and a ratings powerhouse, which was a rare bet on a high-cost, auteur-driven series. The time slot of the premiere was Monday at 10 p.m., immediately after Heroes. The critical response was mixed to positive. Praise focused on dialogue and ambition, but criticism focused on slow pacing, heavy explosion, and a lack of consistent comedic timing compared to SNL. Ratings declined sharply after the first few episodes, dropping below 7 million viewers by mid-season. Critics noted that while Sorkin's writing was sharp, the show's insider TV focus made it inaccessible to general audiences. Advertisers and executives began worrying about the return on NBC's substantial investment. Despite high production values and the prestige attached to Sorkin, NBC canceled Studio 60 after one season, 22 episodes. The network decided the creative ambition did not justify continuing the show given mediocre ratings. Forgotten TV Nightmares. The show Pink Lady and Jeff, 1980, was a comedy disaster that vanished from television history. The premise of the show was a variety comedy show pairing Pink Lady with American comedian Jeff Altman. The format included skits, musical numbers, and celebrity guests. Leverage Pink Lady's fleeting U.S. fame and create a family-friendly variety hit. NBC heavily promoted the show as a primetime entertainment vehicle. The expectation was a cross-cultural comedy variety experiment that would appeal to both teen and adult viewers. Pink Lady's English proficiency was limited, creating awkward dialogue delivery. Jeff Altman's comedic style clashed with the duo's musical and performance sensibilities. Scripts were poorly adapted from Japanese variety formats, resulting in humor that felt incoherent to American audiences. Production invested heavily in sets, costumes, and musical choreography, making it one of NBC's more costly variety experiments that season. The time slot for the premiere is Monday at 8:30 p.m. Ratings were extremely low, while the premiere failed to attract significant audiences. The show's critical response was brutal. Reviewers described the show as painfully unfunny, incomprehensible, and a culture mismatch disaster. Audience confusion and discomfort were widespread, while some viewers reportedly changed the channel mid-episode. NBC pulled Pink Lady and Jeff after only one broadcast, one of the quickest primetime cancellations in history. Remaining episodes were never aired. The show became a legendary example of a high-profile variety flop. The failure severely damaged the NBC's reputation for variety experimentation in that era. He is frequently cited in books and articles on TV flops as a perfect storm of poor casting, cultural mismatch, and unfunny writing. The series exists mostly in archival clips and retrospective commentaries, while it left virtually no footprint in public memory. Shows that premiered at the wrong time. A cult classic show. The disastrous launch window doomed Firefly, 2002. The premise of the show was a space western following a crew of renegades aboard the ship Serenity, blending frontier Americana with sci-fi politics and character-driven storytelling. The network goal was to capture both sci-fi audiences and mainstream viewers with a genre-mixing adventure series unlike anything on TV. At the time, networks were cautious with sci-fi because of inconsistent ratings and high production costs. The scripts leaned heavily into slow-burn character development rather than actions. Fox executives were unsure how to market a Western sci-fi hybrid. Internal disagreements led Fox to request changes like fewer dark themes and more action-oriented episodes. The original premiere date was September 2002. Fox considered the pilot too slow and refused to air it first. Instead, they aired an action-heavy later episode as the premiere, confusing new viewers. The series was placed in the high-risk Friday night 8 p.m. slot, known for low viewership, which is especially dangerous for sci-fi. This issue exemplified the wrong-time premiere problem, particularly due to Friday nights and weak audience engagement. Ratings were underwhelming from the first week. Critics appreciated the potential, but noted narrative discontinuity caused by the episode shuffle. The audience was too niche, like sci-fi fans weren't watching Friday nights, and casual viewers were alienated by the tonal complexity. Ratings dropped steadily due to scheduling inconsistencies, preemptions for sports, and episodes being aired out of order. Fox executives grew frustrated, citing high production costs and low returns. Promotion was reduced mid-season, further hurting visibility. Fox canceled Firefly after only 11 of the 14 produced episodes aired. The remaining unaired episodes were quietly released later in summer reruns. Fans lamented that the show never had a chance to find its footing or audience. Television's fastest fades. A controversial reality special show, Who's Your Daddy, 2005, that imploded in a single night. The concept was a reality competition in which an adoptee, reunited with biological family members for the first time, must guess her real father from a lineup of imposters. Fox hoped to combine the emotional pull of reunion shows with the game show tension of deceptive guessing formats. Internally, executives believed the emotional reveal would generate massive ratings and media buzz. Production began quietly due to the sensitive subject matter. Adoption advocacy groups, social workers, and psychologists voiced concerns like potential exploitation of adoptees. Fox brushed off concerns, believing controversy would help ratings rather than hurt them. The show was advertised as a one-hour special with plans for 6 additional episodes if successful. Viewer reaction was immediately polarized, with some curious about the emotional reunion angle. Critical response was, like, universally negative. Critics called it shamelessly exploitative and morally bankrupt television. Major newspapers, adoption groups, and family rights organizations condemned the show within hours of its airing. Online forums and early social media exploded with outrage. Fox headquarters received hundreds of calls and emails criticizing the premise's insensitivity. Advertisers signaled discomfort, with several quietly withdrawing interest in sponsoring future episodes. Despite acceptable ratings, the controversy was too severe. Fox canceled the entire series the day after the premiere. The remaining 6 episodes, already produced or in production, were immediately shelved. The network refused to rebroadcast the pilot or place it in reruns. The most puzzling shows ever greenlit. A bizarre Hitler sitcom, Hi-Oh Honey, I'm Home, 1990, left audiences wondering how it was ever approved. The premise of the show was a sitcom parodying 1950s American domestic comedies, except the neighbors were Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun, living next door to a Jewish couple. Even before release, insiders were shocked a Hitler-based sitcom had been commissioned, worrying the concept would overshadow satire. The script attempts to mimic lighthearted American sitcom tropes like laugh tracks, wacky misunderstandings, and domestic squabbles, but places them in an absurd and deeply uncomfortable historical context. Tonal confusion emerged early, like, was it an anti-fascist satire? Executives at BSB pushed forward, believing controversy would bring attention to the fledgling network. 8 episodes were produced, indicating notable confidence from the network despite internal doubts. It aired as part of BSB's Galaxy Channel sitcom block. The audience reaction was immediate confusion and discomfort. Viewers reported not understanding the tone. Some called it offensive, while others found it bizarre rather than amusing. Critical response was overwhelmingly negative, while critics described it as a concept too strange to exist. After 1 episode, BSB pulled the show from the schedule. Just weeks later, BSB merged with Sky Television, which did not pick up the show. The remaining 7 episodes never aired. The series became a cautionary tale of how far satire can be stretched before collapsing under its own premise. The show largely vanished, except for a single surviving episode, which is circulated among TV historians and online archives. Media analysts emphasize that the issue wasn't making fun of Hitler, a staple of satire, but tried to do so in the format of a brightly lit, canned laughter domestic sitcom, which is a combination that simply didn't work in any recognizable comedic framework. Shows that aired once and were never seen again. The Trouble with Tracy, 1970-71, was a Canadian sitcom produced by CTV and the Canadian Television Network. The series was adapted from the American radio and television show The Life of Riley, starring a bumbling but lovable father navigating everyday family life. Budget constraints and a tight production schedule led to extremely low production values, rushed scripts, and minimal rehearsal time. The series was filmed in Toronto with a limited cast, and episodes were shot quickly to meet the ambitious schedule of 5 episodes per week. The network aired the show in a regular weekday slot, hoping to attract family audiences with lighthearted comedy. Despite their intentions, the low production quality, stilted performances, and hurried pacing were immediately noticeable. Viewers were critical, finding the show poorly acted and cheaply produced. Critics described it as unwatchable and a low point in Canadian television comedy. The series quickly gained notoriety for its awkward dialogue, continuity errors, and amateurish sets. While the full series technically ran through 1971, many stations dropped it after only a few episodes due to poor reception. Several episodes were not aired in some regions. It is often remembered as one of the worst received sitcoms in Canadian TV history. Only fragments and reruns survived, and the show is now largely considered a cult curiosity. Historians and fans regard The Trouble with Tracy as a cautionary tale of rushed production and low-budget programming. It is frequently cited in retrospectives of television failures and so bad it's famous shows. The lost episodes of TV history. Tim Daly played Norman Foley in the character-driven drama Almost Grown, 1988 to 1989, which blended maturity, family strife, and personal development with subtle humor throughout the course of 3 time periods in a couple's lives. The drama was designed with an older audience in mind. On October 27, 1988, the program debuted on CBS. Norman's interaction between work, family, and romance was the main focus of the episodes. The acting, particularly Daly, and script were praised by critics as smart, but the inconsistent pacing and melodrama limited the show's appeal to a wider audience, and the ratings remained low throughout a difficult time. Viewers did not connect with the show, even though the actors were skilled. CBS aired 9 episodes until February 1989, when low viewership led to their cancellation. A small cult of drama enthusiasts, not just historians, preserved the entire run of the play in archives. It is remembered as underrated due to talent, as conflicting scripts and bad scheduling undermined talented actors and creators. TV historians and aficionados of dramas from the 1980s have a small cult following. The program, commended for Chase's foresight, prior to The Sopranos, scheduling detracts from this unappreciated aspect. When ratings hit rock bottom. The show Cavemen, 2007, was based on the popular Geico Cavemen advertising campaign. ABC developed a sitcom featuring modern-day cavemen navigating contemporary life. The network aimed to capitalize on the ad campaign's popularity and attract a broad, family-friendly audience. The show aired on October 2, 2007 on ABC in primetime. The pilot episode introduced the cavemen characters in a suburban setting, highlighting humorous conflicts arising from their prehistoric clashing with modern society. Production values were standard for a sitcom, with multi-camera filming and studio audience laughter. Viewership was extremely low, and only about 4.6 million viewers watched the premiere. The series received harsh criticism for its forced, unfunny, and shallow nature, earning it the title of one of the worst sitcoms of the decade from critics. After the first episode, ratings continued to plummet. ABC canceled Cavemen after only 6 episodes aired, leaving several unaired. The series is remembered as one of the fastest-flopping sitcoms in modern U.S. television. Cavemen is frequently cited as an example of over-reliance on gimmicks and failure to adapt an advertising concept into sustainable TV programming. Surviving episodes are available on DVD and streaming platforms, but the show remains a notorious flop. Media analysts use it as a cautionary tale about how ratings can quickly plummet when premise, writing, and execution fail to connect with audiences. Series that wasted their talent. The show Joey, 2004 to 2006, was a spin-off of the highly successful sitcom Friends, starring Matt LeBlanc, reprising his role as Joey Tribbiani. The show aimed to capitalize on LeBlanc's popularity and continue the story of his character as he pursued an acting career in Los Angeles. Despite LeBlanc's comedic talent and charisma, the writers struggled to recreate the dynamic ensemble chemistry that made Friends a hit. The show aired on September 9, 2004 on NBC in primetime. The first episode introduced Joey adjusting to life in L.A., meeting new friends, and navigating the entertainment industry. Production values and style were similar to Friends, but without the strong supporting cast that complemented LeBlanc. Ratings were mediocre, and viewership declined steadily over the first season. Critics widely noted that the show wasted Matt LeBlanc's talents, pointing out weak writing, lackluster humor, and unengaging storylines. Many felt the show failed to capture the charm and energy of Friends, despite having one of its most beloved stars. NBC canceled Joey after 2 seasons, with 46 episodes produced. The show never achieved the cultural impact or popularity of its predecessor. Joey is remembered as a classic example of a spin-off that squandered a talented lead due to poor writing and lack of supporting chemistry. Matt LeBlanc's performance was praised individually, but the show's failure demonstrates how even a highly skilled actor can be limited by weak material. Concepts that never connected. The Paul Reiser Show, 2011, starred Paul Reiser in a semi-autobiographical comedy about Reiser's life as a married, middle-aged man balancing family, friends, and work. The show attempted an experimental sitcom format, blending traditional multi-camera comedy with a stream-of-consciousness narrative style. Despite Reiser's previous success with Mad About You, the concept was unconventional for a network audience. It blended multi-camera sitcom tropes with stream-of-consciousness asides to the camera, though uneven for network TV. The premiere of the show was on April 21, 2011, with episodes showing Reiser's direct-to-camera commentary amid domestic and friend group antics. Viewers were confused by the unusual tone and pacing, leading to very low ratings. Critics praised Reiser's charm, but criticized the show's inconsistent writing and awkward format, which failed to engage audiences. The show had low ratings, like 3.3 million for episode 1, dropping even further, which confused viewers. NBC canceled the Paul Reiser Show after only 2 episodes aired, and only these 2 were produced. It is considered a notable oddity and a quick flop, often included in lists of short-lived experiments that represent risky network innovations gone awry. The series is remembered as a TV oddity that confused viewers despite the involvement of a well-known actor and creator. It illustrates the risks of experimental narrative techniques in traditional network sitcoms. Today, it is discussed in retrospectives of short-lived and perplexing TV experiments. TV oddities that confused everyone. The show Joni Loves Chachi, 1982-83, was a spin-off of the hugely popular sitcom Happy Days. The show focused on Joni Cunningham, Erin Moran, and her boyfriend Chachi Arcola, Scott Baio, as they pursued musical careers in Chicago. The creators hoped to capitalize on the success of Happy Days by blending teen romance, comedy, and musical performances. Despite the built-in audience, the premise and focus on musical performances felt disconnected from the original show. The show aired on March 23, 1982, on ABC in primetime. Episodes featured Joni and Chachi performing at various venues, dealing with family conflicts and navigating young love. Viewers were confused by the mix of sitcom and musical elements, leading to declining ratings. Critics panned the show as formulaic and unnecessary, noting that it failed to capture the charm of Happy Days. ABC canceled Joni Loves Chachi after 17 production episodes aired. The show's poor reception made it a footnote in Happy Days franchise history. Audiences remember the series as a TV oddity that confused them, demonstrating that even successful spin-offs can fail when the concept doesn't resonate. It is often cited in retrospectives of unsuccessful 1980s sitcoms and as a lesson in overextending popular franchises. The foretold failures of television. Michael Richards, known for his role as Kramer in Seinfeld, attempted to lead his sitcom in The Michael Richards Show 2000. The premise followed Richards as a man who returns to his childhood home to live with his father after personal setbacks, blending family and workplace comedy. Industry insiders were skeptical from the start, citing that Richards' comedic style may not translate to leading a conventional sitcom. The show premiered on February 22, 2000, on NBC in primetime. The first episodes attempted to capture Richards' physical comedy and quirks in a family-oriented sitcom setting. Longtime fans of Seinfeld found the show's tone and style confusing, leading to very low ratings. Critics deemed the series unfunny and awkward, highlighting the underutilization of Richards' talents in a formulaic sitcom. After all 7 episodes aired, NBC canceled The Michael Richards Show. The cancellation was widely expected, as early reviews and ratings signaled a failure. The series is remembered as a foretold failure, demonstrating that star power alone cannot ensure a show's success. Analysts cite it as an example of misaligned expectations and poor execution, particularly when attempting to capitalize on a performer's past success. Today, it is a minor footnote in television history, referenced in discussions of short-lived post-Seinfeld projects. Shows too ambitious to survive. The show Kings, 2009, was created by Michael Green. Kings was a modern, high-budget reimagining of the biblical story of David and King Saul, set in a fictional contemporary monarchy called Gilboa. The series aimed to blend political drama, military conflict, mythology, and Shakespearean-style storytelling. NBC invested heavily in cinematic production like elaborate sets, large outdoor shoots, high-end costuming, and visual effects. Early on, industry analysts warned that the show's complex mythology and prestige drama tone might be difficult for a mainstream network audience to follow. The show aired on March 15, 2009 on NBC. The show aired in a prime Sunday slot, marketed as one of NBC's most ambitious dramas of the decade. Viewers found the world intriguing, but complicated, and the ratings dropped sharply after the premiere. Critics praised Ian McShane's powerhouse performance and the show's cinematic ambition, but many noted that the narrative was too dense, symbolic, and unconventional for network TV. Its tone was part political thriller, part biblical allegory, and part prestige epic, and confused viewers who expected a typical drama. Due to extremely low ratings and high production costs, NBC moved the series to a low-visibility Saturday slot after only 4 episodes. NBC canceled Kings after 13 episodes, completing its 1 season but receiving no renewal. Several episodes aired with little promotion, and the show effectively vanished from primetime discussion. Kings is not regarded as a quintessential example of a show too ambitious for network television, while Legacy is precisely seen as a premium cable concept on a broadcast budget and schedule. Its blend of political allegory, mythology, and cinematic scale has earned it a cult following. When innovation went off the rails. Fox launched the show Utopia 2014 as one of the most ambitious reality TV experiments ever attempted. Based on a Dutch format created by John de Mol, the show aimed to document 15 strangers living in isolation for a full year as they attempted to build an entirely new society from scratch. The concept blended social experiment, survivalism, politics, and documentary filmmaking. Fox invested nearly $50 million into building a massive compound in Santa Clarita, California, equipped with camera rigs, solar power, barns, and livestock. Producers hoped it would become a multi-year social experiment, updated with 24/7 live streams and weekly episodes that captured the rise of a new civilization. The show aired on September 7, 2014 on Fox. The first episodes introduced the pioneers entering the wilderness compound and immediately clashing over food, shelter, leadership, and ideology. Fox aired the show twice weekly and ran a continuous online live stream to encourage viewer engagement. viewers were overwhelmed and confused by the format. Ratings sharply declined after the premiere. Many fans complained that the experiment quickly devolved into arguments, disorganization, and chaos rather than meaningful social building. Critics slammed it as overhyped and directionless, saying the show lacked structure and failed to deliver the promised innovation. The 24/7 live stream was intended to be the groundbreaking part and was sparsely viewed and expensive to maintain. After just 2 months, Fox canceled Utopia on November 2, 2014. Only 11 episodes aired, despite the show being planned for a full year of filming. The production compound was dismantled shortly after cancellation, bringing the experiment to an abrupt end. Utopia is remembered as a creative idea that collapsed under its own ambition. The experimental format proved difficult to structure for television and financially unsustainable. Harshly Judged, quickly canceled. The show Quarter Life, 2008, began as a web series created by Marshall Herskovitz and Edward Zwick, the acclaimed team behind My So-Called Life and 30-Something. NBC acquired the project, hoping it would appeal to younger viewers by focusing on 20-somethings dealing with careers, relationships, and creative struggles. It was one of the first major attempts to adapt a web series to network television, generating early buzz, but also skepticism from critics who doubted mainstream audiences would connect with its introspective style. The show premiered on February 24 and 26, 2008, on NBC. The premiere introduced a group of creative young adults living in Los Angeles. Much of the story revolved around the lead character posting her inner thoughts online, which is an early portrayal of what would later become common social media oversharing. Ratings were shockingly low. The premiere attracted only 3.1 million viewers, becoming one of NBC's lowest-rated series premieres at that time. Many viewers criticized the show as self-absorbed, slow, and overly reflective, failing to deliver the relatability expected from a young adult drama. Despite its pedigree, the tone was considered mismatched with NBC's primetime expectations. NBC canceled the show after just 2 episodes aired on the network. The remaining episodes were quietly moved to NBC's cable sibling, Bravo, where they aired without fanfare. The rapid cancellation made Quarter Life one of the shortest-lived drama launches in network television history. Quarter Life is remembered as a show that was harshly judged and instantly rejected, unable to translate its niche web-style storytelling to mainstream broadcast TV. It stands as an early example of the difficulty networks faced when trying to merge Internet-inspired storytelling with traditional formats. Premises that left audiences scratching their heads. The Dana Carvey Show, 1996, was a sketch comedy show that baffled audiences and critics alike. Dana Carvey, a former Saturday Night Live cast member, created the show. The show aimed to be a cutting-edge, absurdist sketch comedy program for ABC, with a mix of topical satire, short sketches, and pre-taped bits. Unlike traditional sketch shows, it used rapid-fire editing, surreal humor, and unusual recurring characters to anticipate a more experimental approach than network TV typically allows. The show featured a cast including Steve Carell, Stephen Colbert, and Rachel Dratch, many of whom later became prominent in comedy. Writers experimented with sketches that pushed boundaries, including controversial political satire and parody of pop culture. ABC executives were cautiously optimistic, but the content was riskier than most network television at the time. The Dana Carvey Show premiered on ABC on Tuesday nights, immediately receiving attention from critics and viewers for its edgy and chaotic style. Sketches included surreal comedy, rapid transitions, and dark or absurdist humor that some viewers found confusing or off-putting. Critics praised certain sketches, but noted that the show's pace and experimental approach could alienate mainstream audiences. The ratings were low from the start, as many viewers were unprepared for the show's non-traditional comedy style. ABC received complaints that some sketches were too obscure, crude, or disjointed. Despite praise from comedy enthusiasts and industry insiders, general audiences found the show difficult to follow and inconsistent. ABC canceled the show after 7 episodes aired, with some sketches remaining unaired. The show was notable for its short run, despite its critical acclaim in niche comedy circles. TV shows nobody missed. The Wilton North Report, 1987, was a late-night talk show that audiences and critics largely ignored. The show was created by the Fox Broadcasting Company during its early years as part of a push to compete with NBC's Tonight Show and CBS's late-night programming. The show was pitched as a late-night talk variety hybrid featuring interviews, comedy sketches, and topical commentary. It was named after its host, Gilbert Wilton North, a relatively unknown broadcaster at the time. The intention was to use a hip, irreverent format to draw in younger urban audiences. The writers and producers developed sketches, monologues, and guest segments aimed at a satirical, offbeat tone. Several comedians and unknown actors were recruited for recurring sketches. Network executives were cautiously optimistic, but recognized the challenge of competing against established late-night shows. The show premiered on Fox's fledgling network Late Night Block. Early episodes featured awkward interviews and inconsistent sketches, revealing both the inexperience of the production team and the host's limited appeal. Critics described it as a confused attempt at irreverence and struggling to find a voice in the late-night landscape. Ratings were extremely low, especially compared to The Tonight Show and Late Night with David Letterman. Viewers found the sketches unfunny or disjointed, and the host failed to generate a strong following. Media coverage was minimal, and the show received few reviews and little buzz, effectively living up to the idea of a TV show nobody missed. After airing only a few months, Fox quietly canceled the show. No special network announcements were made, and they simply disappeared from the schedule. Short runs, long regrets. The Jerry Springer Show, 1991, was a daytime talk show that shocked audiences with outrageous content. The original concept was intended as a politically oriented talk show addressing current events, social issues, and community topics. The show was produced in Chicago and pitched to syndication networks, aiming to attract daytime viewers seeking serious topical discussions. Early episodes featured a panel format, with guest experts, ordinary citizens, and politicians discussing controversial topics. Jerry Springer hosted with a focus on calm moderation, asking pointed questions and guiding discussions. Writers and producers developed segments that were intended to be informative, civic-minded, and reflective of contemporary societal issues. The show premiered in a syndicated daytime slot across the U.S. Early reception was mixed, and some stations liked the fresh political content, while viewers found the format slow and dry compared to traditional talk shows. Ratings were modest, while the show struggled to distinguish itself in a crowded daytime market. Producers noticed that controversial personal stories, like family disputes, outrageous behavior, and shocking confessions, drew much higher ratings than political discussions. The show gradually shifted toward a more sensational format, featuring physical fights, shocking revelations, and outrageous guests. This pivot alienated early viewers, but created a new, dedicated audience that embraced the chaos. Critics began to label the show trash TV, though its ratings climbed steadily. By 1995, The Jerry Springer Show had shifted from its original civic-minded premise to becoming synonymous with outrageous daytime television. Despite its massive popularity, many viewers and media commentaries felt the content was morally questionable or exploitative, dubbing it a spectacle nobody could ignore. Yet many critics welcomed its absence from a cultural respectability standpoint. The Forgotten Side of Television History. The Ropers, 1979 to 1980, was a short-lived Three's Company spinoff that quickly faded from view. The show was a spinoff of the popular sitcom Three's Company, focusing on landlords Stanley and Helen Roper. ABC sought to capitalize on the success of Three's Company by moving the beloved characters to their own suburban setting. The writers attempted to create humor around marital dynamics, subaltern life, and middle-class conflicts, shifting the setting from the apartment complex to a suburban neighborhood. Norman Fell and Audrey Meadows were cast as Stanley and Helen Roper. Supporting characters were added, including neighbors and co-workers, to provide situational comedy. Scripts aimed for lighthearted domestic humor, but the pacing and jokes were considered bland compared to the zany humor of Three's Company. The show premiered on ABC in the fall 1979 season, scheduled for primetime viewing. Initial ratings were modest, but audience engagement lagged behind other sitcoms. Critics have described the show as safe, forgettable, and a pale shadow of its parent series. While loyal Three's Company's fans tuned in, the show failed to attract new viewers. Jokes and pilots were considered predictable, lacking the risque or farcical elements that made Three's Company a hit. Some affiliates reportedly lost interest in promoting the show, contributing to its lackluster reception. After 28 episodes over one season, ABC canceled The Ropers due to low ratings and weak critical reception. Unlike other spin-offs that thrived, this series quickly faded into obscurity, rarely referenced in syndication or retrospectives. Cast members moved on to other projects, and the characters were never revived on screen. The show is remembered as a classic example of a failed spin-off, often cited in studies of television history. Scholars and TV historians note it illustrates how star power alone cannot sustain a show, the risks of moving characters into unfamiliar or less engaging settings, and audience fatigue with derivative programming. Today, The Ropers is largely forgotten, surviving mainly in archival clips or nostalgia discussions. The most spectacular TV failures ever conceived. The show Manimal, 1983, was a bizarre action-adventure series remembered for its wild premise and quick cancellation. The premise centered on Dr. Jonathan Chase, Simon McCorkindale, a wealthy criminologist who could transform into any animal to fight crime. The show aimed to blend detective work with special effects and adventures, hoping to attract viewers who liked action, fantasy, and superhero elements. Episodes required practical effects and animal footage, combining live animals with footage of the actor to simulate performances. Writers developed standalone crime-solving stories in which Chase would become a bird, a cat, or another animal to pursue villains. Despite the ambitious concept, the technical limitations of 1980s television made the transformations look unconvincing and sometimes comical. The show premiered on NBC in primetime. The pilot episode showcased Chase transforming into a jaguar and a falcon to solve a murder case. Critics and viewers responded with skepticism, pointing out that the premise was excessively extravagant and challenging to grasp. Ratings were poor from the beginning. The viewers found the special effects cheesy, the acting stiff, and the premise too far-fetched. Media coverage described the show as a fantasy action series that stretches credibility and high camp, low expense. After only 8 produced episodes aired, NBC canceled Manimal due to low ratings. The show's short run made it a prime example of a bold idea that failed to connect with viewers. Thanks for watching Past Paradise, where Hollywood legends come home. If you enjoyed today's look into topic TV flops you probably don't remember, then don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Got a star or story you want next? Drop it in the comments. Until then, keep the nostalgia alive only on Past Paradise.